The fall of Earth. The sky burned. From orbit, Zalvoran dreadnoughts rained plasma bombardments upon Earth's surface. Cities that had stood for centuries, New York, Beijing, London, vanished in firestorms. The Terran defense fleet had lasted mere hours against the invaders' overwhelming force. Humanity's proud warships, outmatched and outgunned, were torn apart like paper before a hurricane. Captain Elias Carter stood on the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, his face illuminated by the chaotic red glow of emergency lights. Reports flooded in, planetary defenses crippled, communication hubs destroyed, the last line of defense overrun. Earth had fallen. "Captain, we have incoming enemy cruisers," Lieutenant Morgan called out, her voice tense but steady. "They're moving to intercept our retreat trajectory." Carter clenched his jaw. He had no choice. His fleet, what was left of it, had to escape, or humanity would be wiped from existence. He turned to his helmsman. "Initiate emergency FTL jump. Set coordinates for Luna Colony." The ship rumbled violently as the Zalvoran ships fired, but the Vanguard's engines roared to life. Space twisted around them, and in an instant they were gone. Underscore The escape was a hollow victory. When the Vanguard emerged near Luna Colony, the sight was gut-wrenching. The once thriving lunar outpost was nothing but scattered debris. The Zalvoran had already been here. Carter closed his eyes for a brief moment, forcing himself to suppress the grief rising in his chest. "Sir," Morgan said quietly, "we have survivors." A handful of warships and civilian transports drifted among the wreckage, their distress signals barely flickering. Carter wasted no time. "Get them aboard. We take whoever we can and leave before the Zalvoran return." As shuttles retrieved the survivors, Carter opened a channel to the Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced alien races that had once claimed to be allies of humanity. "This is Captain Elias Carter of the Terran Defense Fleet. Earth has fallen. We need assistance. I repeat, humanity is under siege. The response came swiftly. "We mourn for your losses, Captain, but the Council cannot risk war with the Zalvoran. Our hands are tied. We advise you to surrender." Carter's hands curled into fists. Surrender? After watching billions burn? After seeing his home reduced to cinders? He cut the transmission. "No help is coming," he said, his voice cold. "We're alone." The remaining officers and crew looked at him, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. Carter exhaled slowly. They might be outnumbered, outmatched, and abandoned, but humanity was not finished. "Then we fight," he declared. "We rebuild. We take the war to them." The bridge fell silent. Then, one by one, the crew nodded. The Terran Reclamation Fleet was born. And though Earth had fallen, humanity would rise. And when they did, they would make the galaxy remember why humans should never be underestimated. The rise of the Phoenix. The Zalvoran believed humanity was finished. They were wrong. Deep in the shattered remains of the Sol system, beyond the reach of enemy patrols, the last remnants of the Terran military regrouped. Hidden in the asteroid belt, a forgotten mining outpost became the heart of the resistance. Captain Elias Carter stood in the dimly lit command center of what was now called Phoenix Base. A holographic map displayed enemy supply routes and patrol patterns. His ragtag fleet was a shadow of Earth's former might, just a handful of battered warships, stolen civilian freighters, and barely 1,000 trained soldiers. But if humanity had one advantage, it was adaptability. "We can't fight them head-on," Carter said, studying the map. "But we don't need to. We bleed them. We make them regret ever thinking they could wipe us out." Lieutenant Morgan, standing beside him, smirked. "Guerrilla warfare in space? Risky. It's our only shot," Carter replied. The first strike came swiftly. A Zalvoran patrol frigate, monitoring the wreckage of Luna Colony, picked up an anomaly, a faint distress beacon. As it moved in to investigate, A hidden Terran corvette lurched from the shadows, firing a precise volley of railgun rounds that shredded the alien vessel's engines. Before the enemy could react, a strike team boarded the ship, cutting down resistance with brutal efficiency. By the time the Zalvoran realized what had happened, the ship was gone. So was its databank, its weapons cache, and its fuel reserves. Over the next weeks, the same pattern repeated. Isolated ships vanished. Supply lines were raided. Spaceports on occupied human colonies were sabotaged. The Zalvoran were powerful, but they were slow, predictable, and humans, desperate and relentless, exploited every weakness. At Phoenix Base, engineers worked tirelessly, reverse engineering stolen alien technology. Human minds adapted at a speed the Zalvoran couldn't comprehend. Plasma-based weapons were integrated into Earth-made railguns. AI-driven combat drones were improved beyond their original programming. Every stolen resource, every piece of salvaged tech was turned into a weapon. Then came their boldest move yet, a strike on Drath Outpost, a major Zalvoran supply hub orbiting Jupiter's remains. The ISS Vanguard, flanked by two newly upgraded Terran frigates, emerged from the darkness of space, targeting the outpost shield generators. In coordinated precision, fighter squadrons disabled the station's defenses, while boarding teams stormed the facility, seizing vital resources before detonating explosive charges. The Zalvoran finally realized the truth. Humanity was not just surviving. It was evolving. Captain, transmission intercepted from a Zalvoran command ship, Morgan reported. Carter read the message aloud. The humans endure. They should not be. They must be eradicated. A grim smile formed on his lips. The enemy was afraid. Good. Let them try, Carter muttered. They wanted a war? Now they'll get one. The Terran Reclamation Fleet had taken its first step. The fight for Earth had begun. War across the stars. The war had begun. What was once a scattered band of survivors had become a force to be reckoned with. The Terran Reclamation Fleet, now dozens of ships strong, operated like a ghost in the void, striking, vanishing, and striking again. The Zalvoran Empire, once so sure of their dominance, struggled to contain an enemy they had thought extinguished. But Carter knew raids wouldn't be enough. If humanity wanted to reclaim Earth, they had to cripple the Zalvoran war machine. They needed something bigger. They needed to strike at the heart of the enemy. The plan. Phoenix Base had intercepted a critical piece of intelligence. The Zalvoran shipyards orbiting their homeworld of Draxus Prime were producing an unstoppable fleet. If those ships were allowed to launch, the war would be over before it truly began. Carter gathered his officers in the war room, the holographic display flickering between images of the shipyards and their fleet. This is where we hit them, he said, pointing to the Draxus Prime shipyards. We take this out, and we set the Zalvoran war effort back by years. Morgan frowned. That station is a fortress, shielded, heavily armed, and surrounded by a fleet that outnumbers us 20-1. Carter smirked, which is why we're not fighting fair. The infiltration, a small strike team, disguised in a captured Zalvoran transport, approached Draxus Prime under the cover of a standard supply run. Carter himself led the operation, flanked by Morgan and a dozen of the best soldiers humanity had left. Their goal: infiltrate the station and plant a virus into the defense grid, disabling its shields and allowing the fleet to strike. Inside, the station was a nightmare of cold steel corridors and red-glowing alien architecture. Patrols of Zalvoran guards marched in strict formations, unaware that death moved among them. The humans struck fast and silently, slicing through enemy patrols with suppressed plasma rifles and combat knives. Every second mattered. Morgan worked furiously at a terminal, bypassing security protocols. Almost there, she muttered. A loud klaxon blared. They had been discovered. We're out of time, Carter shouted. Got it, Morgan cried, pressing the final command. The virus spread through the network like wildfire. The shipyard shields flickered and fell. The final strike. Outside, the Terran fleet ripped into real space, engines burning bright as they charged. Railgun slugs and plasma lances tore into the station's hull, blasting apart its defenses. Zalvoran warships scrambled, but the humans were faster, deadlier. The Phoenix Ascendant, humanity's newest and most powerful warship, unleashed a barrage of experimental weaponry, slicing through enemy cruisers like paper. Explosions engulfed the shipyard. The once mighty facility crumbled, along with thousands of newly built warships, all reduced to wreckage. It was a devastating blow. The Zalvoran war machine had been broken. As the Terran fleet retreated, Carter watched the burning wreckage in the distance. Humanity had done the impossible. The final battle was coming, and this time, Earth would strike back. Humanity's triumph. The Zalvoran Empire was reeling. Their once mighty war machine lay in ruins, their fleets in disarray. Humanity had done what no species had ever dared. They had brought an empire to its knees. But the war was not over. Not yet. Earth was still under Zalvoran control, its surface scarred by orbital bombardments. Millions of surviving humans were enslaved, forced to toil under alien rule. The time for raids was over. Now was the time for liberation. Captain Elias Carter stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Ascendant, staring at the holographic display of Earth. His voice was calm but firm. "This is it. We go home." Across the fleet, soldiers and pilots steeled themselves. They had fought for years, endured the unthinkable. Now, they would take back what was theirs. The battle for Earth. The Terran Reclamation Fleet emerged from FDL just outside Earth's orbit. Awaiting them was the last of the Zalvoran Armada, battlecruisers, dreadnoughts, and orbital defense platforms, all prepared for one final stand. Carter opened a fleet-wide transmission. For Earth, the humans struck with terrifying precision. Railguns fired at near-light speeds, tearing through enemy warships. Fighter squadrons weaved through enemy formations, launching EMP missiles that disabled shields and left Zalvoran ships vulnerable. The Phoenix Ascendant, armed with the stolen secrets of alien technology, unleashed a storm of energy lances, carving through Zalvoran dreadnoughts like a blade through flesh. But the enemy fought with desperation. Plasma beams lanced through the void, destroying 2 human frigates. A squadron of human fighters was wiped out by flak cannons. The cost of victory would be high. The infiltration of Terra Prime. While the battle raged above, Carter led a strike team to the surface. Their target, Terra Prime, the massive command center from which the Zalvoran controlled Earth's occupation. They landed in the ruins of Washington, D.C., now a fortress of alien architecture. The streets were patrolled by hulking Zalvoran enforcers, their reptilian eyes scanning for threats. The humans moved like ghosts, slipping through the ruins, taking down guards in silence. But stealth could only take them so far. An alarm blared. "Go loud," Carter ordered. Gunfire erupted. Explosions ripped through the enemy's defenses as the humans pushed forward. Plasma bolts flew past Carter's head as he cut down a Zalvoran officer with a precise shot. Morgan reached the control center's main console. "I can disable their planetary defenses, but I need time." "Then we'll buy it," Carter said, rallying his troops. The battle turned into a brutal firefight. Humans fought with everything they had, outnumbered but never outmatched. Then a rumble shook the ground. Zalvoran dropships were retreating. Their fleet was breaking apart in orbit. The Empire had lost. Morgan grinned. "It's over." Carter exhaled, his grip tightening on his weapon. "No," he said. "It's just beginning." Humanity had struck back. The galaxy would never forget.